Well, the if you laugh, you go to the Furia rebuild meme actually worked in Furia's favor, as they are now the first seed of Americans going to Masters Santiago. They have defied the odds by fielding a last-minute budget roster and then slapping the shit out of the competition, ultimately defeating the multi-million-dollar super team of MIBR. Not only did they slay the Giants, but they also destroyed their fighting spirit, as MIBR was unable to recover after that thrashing. But are they really the best team in Americas? Welcome to Sinistry. Today we're talking about Furia, specifically the thing that fueled them to beat MIBR, what made this team special, and can they maintain their position at the top? Let's find out. But first, we need to talk about the poll. I was quite surprised they beat MIBRs. Yeah, you heard that right, your favorite team's favorite team got beaten by the rebuild. And I was about to ask how, but then I remembered what I wrote besides MIBRs. LOL! So at the beginning of the season, we all witnessed the formation of Avengers-level super teams such as MIBR and NRG. These teams have gone all in to strengthen their roster and have a good shot at winning a title. And then there's Furia, who at the beginning of the season seems to be fine, just chillin', waiting for the big signings to happen, and then picking up what's left thereafter. It does not need to be said that Furia is a certified bottom-of-the-barrel team. No matter what year, the organization has been terrible for the most part. And you might think they're not trying hard enough, but it's not always the case. Another reason is that they sign players that does not mesh well together, unable to build chemistry and all that. And don't get me started on the visa issues, because this visa problem plagues all of VCT Americas, and sure, it's not entirely Riot's fault, but it's still a shame that these players can play on stage. I mean, for duck's sake bro, the entire roster of crew didn't have visas for the whole of kickoff. Not only did Guessnit get to play first in 2026, but they're also behind in the meta. I have a couple more things I want to say about crew, but this is about Furia right now, so let's stick to the topic. So, fast forward to late 2025. I recall the first time I saw this roster and I was like, huh? Not because they're nobodies, but because the signings felt so random. It was like these guys were assembled at the last minute just so that Furia could say they've actually built a team. And the possible reason why as to this roster look awkward at first glance is because Furia might be asking players if they have a US visa, making it the main requirement to get to the team. Because as we all know, the bar that this 2026 roster needed to overcome was not really high. It's basically non-existent. So yeah, Furia basically did a full 180, not wanting to sign players who are potential visa liabilities. And some are calling this the scope meta, but to me, this is the visa meta. Because whoever has a visa gets signed to a team. Again, just look at crew bro. And I still remember that if you laugh, you go to the Furia rebuild meme as if it were yesterday. Whoever created that meme deserves a pat on the back because it was perfection. And now add the fact that they actually won Americas and it just adds to the craziness of it all. And back then, everyone was memeing Furia.
I feel like I kinda just have to put them down here in this group, but they'll definitely be better than last year's Furia.
I think that this team is going to be very high just variance in where that they end up, and the safest bet is to put them towards the dregs, and maybe we get surprised.
Furia?
D. Put him at C, bro. Put him at C.
Or F for Furia.
F for Furia.
And we can't exactly blame them, can we? If you take a close look at the names on the team, you basically have what people may call scraps, but to me, they are victims of a crime. EU is probably the closest to a household name because of the years he spent on 100 Thieves, but unfortunately, Thieves decided he was not part of their future, and so he was like, what? He giggled a bit, and off to Furia he went. Then you also have Artzin. Aspas might have cringed when the guy bowed down that one time, but who can blame him honestly? Sometimes, we're just left watching in awe of what Aspas is doing, and some other times, we're left watching him fumbling 3 with best of 5s. But with that said, Art was another victim when MIBR decided they wanted to build a super team. And then Koala Nu was another casualty. Navi acquired him in 2025 but benched him in the middle of the season. Nerf's case was a bit different in that despite grinding for years, no one ever offered him a tier 1 contract. Or maybe Furia might have been offering him a contract again and again and again, but he just didn't want to accept it. Eventually, he got desperate and finally gave in. And then lastly, Alem. He's a clean slate in my books. The young duelist from QOR is trying to prove that he belongs in tier 1. And at the time, I think we can say that this ragtag group of players had nothing written on their resumes, so it's really not surprising that no one believed in them. Buying into this team at that time was basically for shits and giggles. But then just look at the glow up. They made a statement early by beating fan favorite Sentinels, which in hindsight isn't really much of a statement. And then they beat G2, which not only propelled them to the upper finals, but it also signaled to everyone that they are a force to be reckoned with. And when they beat the super team, there was no doubt that this team is here to do some damage. Now, Alem looks like he has a bright future ahead of him. EU and Nerf are looking like the steady anchors of this team. Koala Noob is arguably the best duelist in the region right now, which makes me wonder, did Navi just have no clue how to utilize Koala Noob? Because he's literally torching everyone right now. And then Art is leading this team while also flexing to whatever the team needs. And on top of that, for some reason, he also has tons of plot armor. If you ask me, I would have thought that Aspas would have the thickest plot armor, but no. I mean, just look at how he stuck the dagger in MIBR's hearts. It was a tense situation. If MIBR won the round, they could have mounted a comeback. But as we know it, Verno fired first but whiffed so badly that Artzin was able to convert the round.
IGL versus IGL. Battle of the brains when it comes down to the gunplay! Oh! Bonkers!
Bro, if that's not plot armor, I don't know what is. And now let's talk about how Furia beat MIBR. Because on paper, there should be no way this ragtag collective should be the team that has players that won trophies and gone deep in international tournaments. And yet, they managed to take down Aspas and Co. And you might say the reason was that they're simply better, but that's just a shit take in my eyes, man. Obviously, the team that won is better, no doubt about it, but it's such a lazy take. I mean, you can't be better on everything, right? So, what were they better at? What did they have that MIBR did not? So let's break it down. Furia won the pistol rounds 7-3. And while this is a massive deal in itself, they also managed to win half of their eco rounds compared to MIBR's 3 wins on 17 tries. Now that's significant because winning thrifties almost always means you damage your opponent's economy and maybe sometimes you even get free guns onto the next round. And this stat, by the way, is the epitome of what Furia stands for. And that is winning on a tight budget. So basically what happened here is that Furia dragged MIBR down to the mud and MIBR was not strong enough to withstand Furia's relentlessness. You could say that this relentlessness stems from desperation and hunger to win. And when I look at it, maybe those are the things that MIBR doesn't have because they all look so chill. There was no sense of urgency, no emotion, no excitement. So maybe MIBR is lacking a vibes guy. Tex was supposed to be the vibes guy, but he's a vibes guy and he's a chill guy. But when the team needs to have more intensity, then I think they don't have that. So I guess that would be a problem that they need to solve moving forward. Anyway, going back, with all the glaze and the hype, can this team conquer the internationals? Let's not forget that they're a first seed team. And what are the first seed teams known for when it comes to international tournaments? Well, they're cursed. And it has been a while since a first seed team actually won the bag. Okay, pop quiz. Can you name the last number 1 seed team that actually won a trophy? If you said Sentinels on Masters Madrid, you're wrong. It was actually EDG at Champs 2024 who last won the bag as a first seed. Not gonna lie, but after then, all of the first seeds have been quite mid. So, if recency bias prevails, we should expect Furia and the other first seeds to bomb out, right? Especially with the tournament format. Because while these first seed teams are not playing and they're watching VODs and waiting for playoffs, just chillin', the other teams are building up momentum in the Swiss stage. And not only that, but micro metas could emerge out of nowhere. Gecko has been buffed and Bonkar said the moss-headed agent is now broken. So who knows what the future brings, right? So for reference, I believe the Yoru Waylay meta started on Champs Paris, with DRX being the spearhead of that movement. So if a micro meta is to happen on Masters Santiago, Furia and the rest of these first seed teams are basically cooked, because they won't have any on-stage experience on how to utilize the said micro meta nor play against it. And based on what we have seen before and what the analysts say time and time again, playing on stage is much different than having a theory and trying it out on scrims. Add to the fact that most of these first seeds are newcomers to the big stage. We shall see if the big game environment will be a factor in how these new teams play. So if it were you, would you want to be a first seed or not? Comment down below. So going back, another question that I think needs to be answered is Furia the best team in Americas? If you're a Furia fan, I would understand if you said yes. You know, it's a bias. But if you're a true and blue Valorant enjoyer, it's really hard to ignore what G2 and NRG did on the final stretch of America's kickoff. NRG basically woke up from their hibernation and is looking like the team that won Champs Paris. And then G2 was like a middle-aged guy who played it safe his entire life, got divorced, and to cope, bought a sports car and realized that driving recklessly is actually fun. Meanwhile, what is Furia? Correct me if I'm wrong, but right now, their identity seems to still be that underdog with chips on their shoulders. And they can say that they still represent that all they want, but at the end of the day, it contradicts the reality that they are a first seed team. Think about it, they're just simply not the underdogs anymore. Claim it all they want, but the other teams will be looking at them through a different lens, and not to mention, being on top comes with the territory. Before, there was no pressure, but now all eyes are on them. Their every move is being watched, and it will be up to this ragtag group of guys to prove that they can thrive under the pressure. So, do you guys think this Furia team has what it takes to sustain their success, or even go further to the next level? As always, I'll see you guys in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed, hit that sub button so you don't miss out, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.